The idea of structural transformation, at least as it's talked about here, I think it's talked about very much in economic terms. And they're going back to a much older kind of notion of development, which is this notion of diversifying the economy, which a lot of people have started talking about recently, especially like Danny Roderick and things like that, that it's not just GDP growth anymore that's really critical, it's these other elements. And this kind of discussion has gone on for quite a while. There was a whole Human Development Index idea, and that incorporated these other elements of human well-being in addition to GDP per capita. So this is kind of a return, but also sort of further steps in the whole sort of development of the idea. I guess from my perspective, the problem is that they're missing a lot of the politics of things, and I think that's a real problem. And we know from a lot of work in political economy and economics even that political institutions are really critical to economic development. And so I think it's sort of unfortunate that there's so much focus kind of on these economic fundamentals without also paying some attention to the political fundamentals. Democratization and governance are really the critical ones. Democratization, we've seen some moves toward democratization away from autocracy. A lot of those have turned into these hybrid regimes, which aren't really pure democracies, and they've got some multi-party politics going on, but often there's a single dominant party, and that party and usually a couple of leaders of it really control the country. And so many of these countries have not made the transition to full democracy, and I think they might be better off if they did, but it's probably going to be a while before they're actually there. In terms of governance, this is not just for democracies, but also for the autocratic governments. If you do have good autocracies, they're ones without a lot of corruption and clientelism, and with kind of much more regularized procedures, and they usually don't have the rule of law, because autocracy means you can sort of change things at will. You don't have the institutional structures to prevent change, but often they're more institutionalized than the kind of really bad autocracies, which are very personalized, often military rule and things like that. So I think those two dimensions, especially progress on them, would help in the structural transformation, because otherwise it's very hard to bring in the foreign investment, which is kind of a third area. These countries are capital poor often, and they need foreign investment, and foreign investment brings technology and jobs and things like this, and so that kind of third element that often comes with better governance is very important as well. China and Brazil and some of these other countries are now coming to Africa with foreign investment, with loans, and with foreign aid. They claim that they're doing the foreign aid very differently than the West did it. We'll see. It's not exactly clear that that's the case. And they claim, at least the Chinese, that they're not after just Africa's resources, and we'll see whether that's true or not. I think it's good for Africa because it's a different sort of set of sources for the kind of capital and technology that they need. Whether it's going to be any less sort of, dependency building than the Western aid and loans and investment is a question, I think, to be answered in the future. Hopefully it will help Africa and many of the African nations become stronger and go through this process of structural transformation. And if they can develop the governance structures, then they can kind of manage these dependency relations better, and hopefully that will allow them in the end to be better off.